Commissioner Wandeli, what you're saying is not a small matter.
It is not a small matter.
You have a whole nation to deal with here.
Yes.
How come you are not able to prove to the Supreme Court, show any evidence where what the chairman announced and what was verified was invariance? Why didn't you prove that to the highest court of the land? Then you come to bring it here.
The IEBC failed to undertake electronic tabulation and publication of constituency tallying of presidential results.
Mheshimiwa Mbalile, with due respect, we are not saying we were right and everybody else was wrong. We are just explaining the procedure the way it happened. Where there are flaws within that procedure, then the committee will recommend the legal action to be taken. That's all we are here for.
Okay, that was an interesting session on Thursday last week as the panelists engaged with the delegates that came to make presentations before them. And clearly you can see there the question of the 2022 presidential election not yet settled, especially when you hear from the Chirura 4 commissioners, and shortly we'll be hearing from them on what more they have to say. Let me begin with you, Honorable Elachi, on this one. So, more than a year later, and we still appear not to have sorted out that issue. But yes, there's the National Dialogue team that was called to really discuss the issues concerning the country. And one of those was the election of 2022. How far does this take us into dealing with the gaps that were in 2022?
You see, first of all, let's go now to the real ghosts of IEBC. The real ghosts of IEBC starts way back in 2013. Where everyone, when we finish an election, we come and we have all these challenges. I remember sitting in the committee when I was in the Senate. Mm-hmm. We sat, did a whole review of this IEBC, tried to see how you can balance the staff and the commissioners and see how they can work in collaboration so that we don't get into these conflicts. And one of the ghosts that we must deal with, without looking at what happened at Bomas, because now we were just reopening wounds which I don't understand how we are going to heal them. Mm-hmm. But then we must ask ourselves, what solutions do we put on the table to deal with an institution called IEBC, where politicians, we have decided to handle it. It's like an institution we dismantle, we make when we need it, we dismantle after we have finished, then we remake it again. That in the first instant, can we deal now with the staff of IEBC? Because we have been with them since 2013. We have kicked out the first commissioners, Ahmed and his team left. We were left by the staff. Mm-hmm. This staff I'm talking about is the staff that is at the higher level. The staff, the directors, all these who at one point they decide they can also vie, which is okay. I mean, as a Kenyan, you can vie and become a commissioner. But then we must put in some good governance in terms of if you want to become a commissioner and you're a staff, then you must resign. Just the way we normally say, if you want to get into politics you're in civil service, you must resign and then join this politics, because you will always have that challenge.
What if you don't get the work of a commissioner?
Then that's another challenge. But the moment you decide, then you have to take the bullet. And that's why I'm saying we must look over a way of getting back into good governance. Because in the end, then you start undermining each other. Because you feel, I would have been a commissioner, I would have done better, these ones are not doing better. And so you feel
that certain staff members that would have wanted to be commissioners that were
not
the ones...
would have wanted, they opted to come for the interviews, and they did not get. And so at that time, we needed to ask ourselves. Then we needed to ask ourselves, even as we move on, before we come to 2022, the moment we had the first in Africa, in the world, nullification of an election, what next was for that IEBC? That was a ghost haunting us even before we came to 2022. So each of them, one, you would blame each other, fine. But each of them was trying now to cleanse themselves. And so for us in the politics, I remember coming here one time, and I said, if we want to have a clear way forward of the 2022 election, that was way back even before we just finished the 2017 elections and we were in. And I said it's important now for the chair and the whole team to now go earlier, better. Oh, but the same principles, it decided no, they were better, they were good, and everyone was very confident of each side. So right now, when you come again and we start again looking at what the four did and this other side did, we are not helping Kenya, because Kenyans want to move on. Kenyans would wish one day to have an IEBC where we will finish the election, we will agree on what we have gotten, and we will move as a country, because we cannot, and I'm saying this as Beatrice Alachi now, we cannot always be finishing an election and having all this trauma, post-trauma after an election, and we just go and we have young people, we use them, we do everything, we finish, then we come, we sit and we start this process. I can see now, and I'm wondering, so what next?
Okay, I hear
and
you.
how do we get our new commission? And are we willing to give this new commission time to come in, or are we going to do it the same way we normally do? Then 2 years to an election, 1 year is when we are in a hurry. Bring in commissioners, bring in this, and then we find ourselves in the same process.
Honorable Chikati, allow me to jump, to skip. Honorable Chikati, tell me, so when you hear Mheshimiwa Mbarire engaged in that back and forth with Wanderi, former commissioner of IBC, and she's supposed to be listening. This is a national dialogue. She's supposed to be listening thereafter, together with the other panelists, write a report and tell the country this is what we think. What purpose does that serve then?
First of all, let us give credit where it is due. That is extremely important. For the first time in the history of Kenya, elections were announced at the polling centers, and they were posted on a portal for everyone to see. It has never happened that in any other East African country. It is only in Kenya. And so I give credit to IEBC for delivering that kind of model, which was at that level transparent and accountable. The problem in Kenya is that when you lose an election, or when an election does not favor you, then IEBC is wrong. When an election favors you, and then IEBC is right. What we need to talk about and look at is, how do we strengthen the structures of IEBC? How do we resource the IEBC? And how do we fill the gaps where we think they should be? Otherwise...
Do you find the team in Bomas dealing with what you're explaining?
Yes, they will deal with it.
Are they dealing with it?
Yes.
How?
It is one of the articles...
No, I'm asking about what we've seen.
Yes.
Do you feel like those gaps are being addressed?
That is the purpose of the bipartisan talks.
You're not answering my question.
Yes.
Have you seen them acting on that?
You are not understanding. Indirectly, I'm saying yes. Thank you. Right.
Okay, my specific question was,
yes,
if Mheshimiwa Mbarire, who is also the chairperson of UDA,
yes,
and engaged in that altercation with Commissioner Wanderi, and they're supposed to be sitting there to receive information, I mean, where do you draw the line? Because she's obviously partisan. That's why she's there in the first place. But then again, the essence of this national dialogue was to listen to the people.
Yes.
Say whatever they are saying, and then write a report.
Right. To me, it is through that discourse, discussion and debate that we find a common ground. I mean, it wouldn't be unfair just to listen and we're just saying, yes, yes, yes. Each of us holds different views over certain matters. And we must really bring it out. Okay. Let it be brought out so that we search for a common ground on where all of us should be able to go. Okay. Yes.
Mheshimiwa Koech, there are some Kenyans who've gone to court challenging the place of the National Dialogue Committee in the Constitution, saying that, first of all, who even arrived at the issues of discussion. They gave such a short window of presentations of public memoranda. But then again, what purpose is this serving, especially knowing that we have an urgent issue to deal with, that is the constitution of IEBC, because it's long overdue. There's already a selection panel that is sitting somewhere waiting to be told, do you continue, do you go home? What purpose is this serving?
First, it's not within the National Dialogue Committee or any other quarter to direct the IEBC on how to execute its mandate. I think probably it's just giving time through its own wisdom that let us give time to National Dialogue Committee to find out what comes out of it. But let me just digress a bit and go back to why I believe that, you know, listening to Commissioner Wanderi and the other commissioners, it's like opening a wound that had healed. You know, these are people we will want to forget so fast. Cherera 4 had one mention, and it didn't bother them. It didn't matter to them whether they were going to sink the country or whatever was going to happen. They had one mission: to deliver the presidency of Raila Odinga. If that failed, they went to any stretch to make sure that that succeeded, even if it meant plunging the country into chaos. They did not care. That is why to date, they have never come up with contrary numbers than the numbers of Cherera of 1 + 1 = 11. Never. It is still the same stories of we wanted to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. These are commissioners we will want to forget. Why not for the gallantry of Chebukati and the two commissioners? I can be very certain that this country would probably have been in a worse place after that election. And that is why it comes to the point that I really believe that no politician should be involved in picking of the IEBC commissioners. These Cherera 4 were picked during the handshake regime. I was in Parliament at that time. The bill was really hurried to accommodate these 4. Let me tell you the risk of doing that, Sam. There has never been a problem with IEBC. The problem has been the officers who are commissioned to execute a particular mandate. When that fails, we have a problem. If we have independent IEBC commissioners who are picked from their professionalism and politicians are not involved, you can be very sure that we will have a credible election. Not to say that we did not have a credible election. Last general election, we did. Like my colleague here is saying, it was from the portal. I sat in Bomas 3 agonizing days. Occasionally, I will see Honorable Elisha. At that time, she was so strongly Azimio. And we never used to see eye to eye. I don't know. There
you have lied. One of the things, Sam, let Jama not lie here. We used to see and greet each other. I mean, you see, one thing I can never take because is politics in my heart.
Because of the tension.
But he's still having politics. Even now, he still have politics in his heart.
Because I don't.
You don't want to hear the Chireras. Let them talk.
No, I'm saying, okay. No, I was coming to the point. I have no problem. I have no problem with Cherera for coming out, but let them give us where they think they disagreed with. They've never told us that this is the credible result. This is what I believe should have been the result, and this is my calculation. They have never. All they are saying is that the elections were incredible. We believe that we still stand by our word that the elections were not free and fair, but there is absolutely zero to affirm their position.
Honorable Koech, I mean, so why were they invited to the panel?
No, all of them were invited. In fact, even Chebukati was invited. There were two options. You either accept to appear before,
and so they accepted to
or
appear.
reject. But all I'm saying is that there is absolutely, and that is why you can even see Honorable Mbarire is irritated, because these are people who are not saying anything new. They were being asked.
That's what I'm asking you, and I asked him, Honorable Chikati here.
Yes.
If they are to appear, I mean, there are people who make a lot of presentations before that committee.
Yes.
But if the panel is to engage them in an argument back and forth, what purpose is it serving? I mean, how do you then
This National Dialogue Committee has to come up with a very good report. You cannot go there and pussyfoot and just play with the time that you've been given to make some damning report for the sake of just trying to belittle what IBC and Chebukati's team did. These ones went there for another mission. They just want to be sensational and make it on the headlines.
How do you know that?
Because I listened to them. There's nothing new that they brought. Listen, Sam, if I have extremely damning information about the conduct of IBC and I was part of that team, I will lay it bare in the public. You've been afforded an opportunity by the National Dialogue team. There is absolutely nothing new that they came up with, other than casting aspersions and dropping names, Sam. As I conclude, I want to say this, that as a country, we must be extremely, even if it came from the National Dialogue Committee today, that the commissioner should be picked from politicians. Let us, as a country, disagree, because that will be the wrong direction to go.
I want us to listen to them as they said why they eventually resigned. Watch. Okay, we'll get that clip shortly on what they said exactly about resignations. But Honorable Kibagendi, tell me, so then where do we go from here?
First, I rarely agree with my brother, Honorable Koech, and generally support Kenya Kwanza because of the systematic operation they've meted on the hustlers that put them in power. However, on this one, I agree with him. You know, when people are given an opportunity to serve, they should serve the nation, not individuals.
Absolutely.
The problem this particular commission has had, they wanted to impress Uhuru Kenyatta, which is improper. Yeah? And throughout, from the first day they started making noise, they have never come up with something tangible to make us really get to see that there were some irregularities in how IBC conducted its business. And we cannot continually be listening to them whining that we are this number of commissioners and we ought to have all agreed. You know, that is inappropriate. Or even take a vote just because they had been appointed a few months before elections for purposes of serving a certain cause. And that is why, like Honorable Koech has said, we need to have commissioners who are not loyal to the executive, to individuals. They should be loyal to the cause. You asked something here, and they've been going around it, why Honorable Governor, Her Excellency Mbarire, was having an exchange with these particular presenters. That is not a court of law where you ask people for evidence. He should just listen to them like she listened to everybody else. They didn't ask any other group such tough questions. Yeah? And I think they need to realize the opportunity they've been given as the National Dialogue Committee is they need to be neutral in the way they carry out their mandate at this point, so that people can freely present their issues. Because I realize there are some MPs who went there, they want extra counties created. They were not asked why they think that should happen, or even told that they do not have enough numbers to have counties created in the zones they were trying to push. So Honorable Mbarire and everyone else who is serving in that committee should realize that they need to be neutral and listen to the issues Kenyans are raising. The Secretariat will apportion appropriate vocabulary for the issues that have been raised. They are not a court of law.
Okay, but then again, Honorable Elachi, how does the panel now make a decision? Because they've had a lot of things and they have quite a heavy agenda. Is it the cost of living? Is it auditing the 2022 election? Is it about entrenching certain positions in the Constitution? With all what they've had the past few days up until tomorrow, I think, how do they use that to make such serious decisions on what they should recommend to the country? And even when they do, where do you take that information?
Well, first of all, you see, they were given an opportunity for every Kenyan to bring. And I remember in Parliament when we were debating, we said that you might find the agendas you've been given by the principals will not be even the ones Kenyans are in need of. And indeed, when you listen to many of the memorandums that Kenyans have brought in, you realize it's like Kenyans are auditing the main constitution and they feel there is need to have a few things changed in the constitution. So for me, the best they can do for Kenyans is put down your report. It is a matter of going back to your principals and discuss with them that these are the key agendas that have come. And so before we bring out a final report, we must indeed have a way of getting a clear framework. How do you deal with all these issues that Kenyans have raised? Why is it that Kenyans are asking for counties that they feel maybe they've been disadvantaged, they have been marginalized? So is it that, again, in devolution, we are realizing that there's marginalization? How do you deal with that as a government? The other issue is, for me, the issue of IEBC, whether it was very painful or what, okay, depending on how you pick that information. So how do you bring back an independent commission that is about to deal with boundaries, that is about to deal with so many issues before even you go to that election? And it is very critical for Kenyans, and Kenyans are waiting for that. And we don't want also Kenyans to go to court on these issues of boundaries. And I know if you go to court, the court will say, the Constitution says 12 years down the line, it is done. You must give Kenyans new boundaries, either within the wards or whatever you'll agree. So those are some of the critical issues they need to look at. The issue of the cost of living, you see, that one is an issue. Today it's moving, it's like it evolves. Moving target. Yeah, so it's so difficult. But these key issues that are creating tension within Kenyans, these are the issues the National Dialogue team must give us.
You said that they should come up with a draft, go to their principals, consult, before coming up with... Not really a draft, just come up with a report, the way Kenyans have given their views. And then? And then you have to, I mean, it is not for them to now go and say this can go to the report. No, take the report, that is the views of Kenyans. And you are told, go and collect views. Yes. Bring those views. If those views are views that are supposed now, it will be, depending on this report, there are issues that will come to Parliament, there are issues that can be dealt with in policy, but you must sit down with the same team that... Did you just revise what you told me? Why? You told me that they should go consult with their principals before writing their final report. No, they have to write that. How are you going to consult without writing? That's what you told me. No. They have to write the report, sir. They have to put the views together, all, without diluting and trying to say they are the ones who know this is better in the report. Or take the report as raw as it is. Okay. Yes. All right. So, Honorable Coach, do you think there's a possibility of the panelists not agreeing if what we witnessed on Thursday is anything to go by on certain contentious issues? Absolutely. You must remember that I really hope that they can have a unity of mind. These are politicians from the opposite end of these were the warring teams in last general election. The Honorable Wandayo, for instance, is a very strongly opinionated individual. I've worked with them before. I don't know how they will come into a compromise, but there's a lot of faith because there's a lot of wisdom also in him and many in that team. And even bigger is the fact that it's now a focus. It's bigger than the parties. This National Dialogue Committee has to come up with a report that will consume by the entire country. So I'm sure they'll put the country first, and we will have a document that has a consensus. I'm strongly... So Opiyo Wandayi is the only... I'm not saying Opiyo Wandayi, I'm saying Imani Ichung'wah is equally strongly opinionated. So the majority and the minority, and you see that play out many times on the floor of the House. But at the same time, there is also a unity of purpose sometimes. So what are you going to do with that report? Now, that report should, to be in all fairness, I don't know where the report goes to from there, but looking at the areas that they seem to have agreed on is having in the Constitution the position of, first of all, the National Constituency Development Fund being part of our Constitution. And that has been agreed upon? No, that's part of the things that they are discussing.
And I'm sure, I'm certain that since these are legislators...
You are revising your statements a lot.
There could be...
Sure, this morning.
There could be... the report is not out, Sam.
You have told me one of the things they have agreed upon.
The item that I see them agreeing upon, because these are non-contentious, it is something that is already in the public. So it's nothing much to do for them, other than just to find a way of having it in the Constitution. Is a National Constitutional Development Fund, number one. And number two, the Office of... official opposition, and that one of the chief prime, what do you call it?
Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Prime Cabinet Secretary, rather, yeah. So those are the things that I see. And the two-third gender rule, I don't know how we'll work on that, but...
You see them agreeing on this?
On the two-third gender rule?
You've highlighted CDF, the official opposition,
yes,
as well as the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and now two-thirds.
Yes, because I want them to come out with an agenda that is of benefit to the country. So
then after that, where do you take it?
We will find a way of having it in the Constitution. The procedure of having it in the Constitution is you know it like I do, that it's number one, either we go for a referenda, or number two, it's either done through a parliamentary process. So whichever one is, I don't know. We will wait and see. I do not want to speak on behalf of that committee, but this is where we are.
Mheshimiwa Chikati, so we've been here before, Building Bridges initiative. In fact, that was more elaborate than what you're witnessing now. And still, that was defeated because the court said the president should have no role in such an initiative. Already, the genesis of the National Dialogue Committee stems from both parties.
Yes.
In fact, you can actually trace it to the president and the leader of opposition. So even if this is to transform into a constitutional moment, end of quote, how do you do that without offending what the courts ruled, including the Supreme Court?
You see, just as Mheshimiwa Elaji said, the documentation will be done, of course, with the help of experts. There are areas which are already there being discussed and which have also come through Parliament. For example, this issue of the funds, the CDF fund, the issue of the Affirmative Action Fund, the Senate Oversight Fund, all of them have also come through Parliament, and they are also being discussed at the bipartisan talks. The process, according to me, should be documented. The report should be written. I know the report may find its way through Parliament. Recommendations will be made on whether we are going for referendum or not. But at least that is the process that we expect. What we are looking at for the moment is that those that have a role to play in these talks should play it in such a way that they respect the cause of what they are doing. We should not be able to listen. They should not be able to listen to either this side or the other side, or pull the country, because the whole country is waiting for this process. The whole country is looking upon them for this delivery. We will be so disappointed if it collapses the way this other, they were called what?
BPI.
The BPI collapsed. It will be a terrible thing because, first of all, it's spending money. The country is very anxious. Recently, the country was in demonstrations. And so it is this thing that we are waiting, these discussions. So the report from this discussion is extremely important to chart the way forward on the future of this nation.
Okay.
Yes.
I hear you, but I don't get a solid answer as to what the country should do with that report.
Probably. This is what it should, let me just, probably. Yep. If, for example, the bipartisan committee will come up with a recommendation that the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary should be institutionalized, then that will find itself in the Constitution.
But that has to take a process. You want parliamentary or popular initiative?
It will be discussed. Yes.
What requires parliamentary intervention can go through parliament.
Yes.
And what will require
a referendum,
then we go to the referendum.
So that's what I'm asking, because there are two initiatives. There are two routes that are available in the Constitution. It's either parliamentary or popular. So this one, because there are members of parliament involved there, does this straight go to parliamentary, or it can come through a popular initiative?
You know, this is a political process. And political processes, sometimes it's about, there's something called quid pro quo in law, in Latin. It means it's about give and take. There are times you say, this one we can deal with now. This other one, can we hold it for a minute because we probably do not have resources, or it will raise emotions, you know, things like that. So what can be dealt with in Parliament will quickly be handled from the committee level all the way to the entire House. And what will require a referendum, then we'll have to go that.
Referendum is a separate issue.
Yes.
Because it depends on whether...
And there are some things that require just regulations from ministries.
Kibagende, it depends on whether it touches on clauses
of
Article 255,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So whatever happens, there has to be an initiative, either popular or parliamentary.
Yes.
And I'm asking you, because this process has involved politicians, some of them were parliamentarians, is it straightforward that if there is required to be a constitutional amendment, it has to be parliamentary, or there's a chance it can go popular?
You know, there are certain clauses that you can't touch unless you go the popular way. Yeah, and like I've said, whatever will require Parliament to legislate or to amend, then we'll use Parliament. Whatever will require Kenya to go to a referendum, then we'll go to a referendum. But again, like I told you, this is about Kenya. It is not about individuals. It is a political process where it is about give and take. What can be done now can actually go, we can go ahead and do it. What can wait, we will give it time so that it can simmer for some time, and then we'll be able to deal with it later.
Okay. Now,
but I think the most important
you have not
thing,
answered my question. Just hold on. Article 256 of the Constitution, amendment by parliamentary initiative. A bill to amend this Constitution may be introduced in either House of Parliament, may not address any other matter apart from the consequential amendments to the legislation arising from the bill. That is 256. 257, which is just below it, talks about the popular initiative. An amendment to this Constitution may be proposed by a popular initiative signed by at least 1 million registered voters. And then, of course, it's pursued through the county assemblies, later on to Parliament, after Parliament. If it touches on issues of...
counties.
They call it. So let me just get that right. If the IBC is satisfied that the initiative meets the requirements of this article, the Commission shall submit the bill to each county assembly for consideration. And if a county assembly approves the draft within 3 months after the date it was submitted, then it will be taken to both speakers of the two houses. And if approved, then you see that if the House of Parliament fails to pass the bill, or the bill relates to a matter specified in 255, the proposed amendment shall be submitted to the people in a referendum. And of course, so that means that a popular initiative can begin, and if it gets majority backing in both houses of Parliament, and it does not touch on a question of referendum, then it doesn't go to referendum.
It doesn't, yeah.
If it is rejected by one of the houses, it has to go to
referendum.
But if it comes through the parliamentary initiative and it touches on an issue of 255, straight to referendum.
Yes.
If it does not, then it can be approved.
Yes.
So my question was specifically on whatever report you get from Bomas and it touches on the Constitution, does it come through popular or parliamentary?
It will be a parliamentary process and then to a referendum.
Okay. All right, we'll wait and see how that transpires.
Right.
Let's listen to a different conversation, because the UDA party